So this is going to be another early one. It's before sunrise. I was up super early this morning. It's starting to get to winter here in Norway. It's 4 degrees below centigrade right now, and I got my studded tires on. So I remember this one episode quite a few years back when a friend of mine had just started in a new job, and they had this gathering at his new place of work where a bunch of guys met up for a weekend to sort of get to know each other, or I don't know the details, doesn't matter. Anyway, one of the people had shown up with this model airplane, and this was before I was flying, but I've done a little bit of RC hobbying when I was a youngster, and so had my friend, so we knew a bit about it, but he told me anyway that this guy had shown up with a model airplane. And it was quite a big plane, so he had shown up with a trailer for his car, because the plane was so big that it wouldn't fit inside his car. And, you know, this was kind of a big deal to us, and we found it a little out of the ordinary that someone would be this into the hobby. Well, I'm officially one of these people now. I'm towing a trailer behind me because the plane I'm bringing today is too big to fit in my car. And this is kind of a special project for me. It's actually a scratch build that I've been working on every now and then for the past half year. And it's nothing super fancy, it's just big. And it's made out of quite common building materials that are not hobby related at all. It's building materials for homes, etc. And I've utilized kind of leftover motors and ESCs, and yeah, I haven't bought anything new to kind of facilitate this project. It's all made with items I had from previous projects, or items I bought kind of bulk second hand and kind of just had laying around. And so some of those items found good use now, and I'm excited to see if it will actually be a good project, or will it be a turkey. Nothing wrong about turkeys though.
Okay, so I'm editing the video of the preparation of the airplane and the actual maiden flight, so I figured I'd post some commentaries while I'm looking through the footage. First, obviously, we had to put everything together, and I had some flying mates with me that could help me hold this very big wing. It's kind of delicate. It's made out of a folded Depron, and then taped and glued, and then the servos are all embedded, and I've made motor mounts out of wood and put some metal brackets on those, and put the 4 old drone motors I had laying around on those. And then there's a bigger motor sitting in the tip of the fuselage, and the fuselage is actually made out of this plastic channel material that one uses to hide cables on walls to make installations of cables in homes and offices and stuff look a little more neat and organized. It's kind of a tight fit. This fuselage is quite narrow, so it's almost like a glider almost, where you kind of have to get everything just in the correct position or it's not going to fit. And the lid on those plastic channels serves as a really good battery hatch, or whatever you want to call it. So for that reason, I think those channels are kind of an interesting building material. So then we got everything assembled, and I tried a quick CG test, and it turned out to be slightly tail heavy, but not more than that. We could counterbalance it with a GoPro sitting up on the nose. So I stuck one of those self-adhesive GoPro sockets, or whatever you want to call it, on the top deck of the plane, right up to the motor. It's right behind the front motor there, and then I could sort of stick one of my GoPros in there, and that provided about 80 somewhat, 100 maybe with the frame, so 100 grams of counterbalance, and that really goes a long way up front in the nose, that far away from the wing. So that counterbalanced the tail perfectly. And then I had one of my flying mates hold the plane back, and we tried out to see that full power would work, and it certainly did, and the plane was super strong. My flying mate could really feel the plane tugging at his hand. And then I guess there wasn't much else to do than just do a final check of the control surfaces to make sure they were all moving in the right direction and with a reasonable amount of travel. And then it was time to hit the skies.
høyre, venstre,
Ja.
opp,
Ja,
ned,
ja.
venstre, høyre.
Mye høyder du har da?
Ho! Don't be nervous.
Yes, I'm nervous.
Partykristian plane.
Yes,
Let's fly. Let's have a maiden.
let's fly.
5 engines. Oh! Flies like a dream. Yeah. Nice maiden, Christian.
So we decided to take off from the grass instead of from the tarmac. There is a tail wheel on this airplane, but it's not steerable, and I didn't know what kind of rudder authority this plane would have on the ground, so we decided to take off from the grass as we felt it would track more accurately, and it did track quite accurately on the grass. And there was so much power, it just took off in a matter of very few meters, no sweat at all. What we could tell from the ground after a very short amount of time was that there was kind of screeches coming from one of the motors. And at first I thought maybe the soldering for one of the wing motors wasn't good enough, so one phase was kind of intermittent on one of the motors. As I knew I had soldered all this, I knew that could be the case on one motor because I had a hard time getting all the lacquer off the wire when I soldered it. But that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems that it was actually the nose motor that was kind of making these screeches. And having looked at the numbers in hindsight, I think the issue is as simple as overpropping. So at 4S with this big prop, I believe it's a 12 by 10. It's just a little too much for this ESC, and then it kind of stalls out. And I've had that happen with me before, and it kind of makes the same noise. And yeah, it all adds up and makes sense. So I definitely think that's the issue on the front nose motor. And listening to the recording made on the plane with the nose tip GoPro, you can definitely tell it's that motor cutting out. You can see it from how the plane lunges to one side once the cutouts appear. And you can also hear it very well because the motor is like 2 centimeters away from the camera, so it records the sound of it cutting out really well. I don't have any plans for this other than I've looked up online kind of what the percentages of the dimension in relation to each other should be, kind of like the wing chord is so and so much, then a certain percentage of that should be the horizontal stabilizer, for instance, or a certain percentage of that should be the wing area and as compared to the aileron or flap area, and then how much fuselage should there be from the leading edge of the wing leading up to the propeller in the front, and so on and so forth. So those are kind of established rules of thumb that you can easily find online, and then you kind of just build from there. But this was kind of a make it up as you go type of project, and it's really hard to sort of foresee or anticipate how everything is going to be in relation to each other, because once you start mounting everything up, then you find out, oh, it's kind of a little narrow here, or this battery can't be just here because that's going to touch up on like the, I don't know, the end bell of the motor, and that could puncture the battery. And there's all kinds of considerations that you end up taking as you go along, which I guess is kind of the charm of a scratch build like this. So obviously the first thing we noticed was that my wing spar is not nearly stiff enough, so that will have to be kind of the version 2 will have to do something else. What the wing spar consists of is, first, it's an aluminium channel, which is made, I think it's made for like building shower cabinets or something, and it's not by far thick or stiff enough, but you know, I just wanted to try something out. And then next to the aluminium channel, or is it aluminum, depending on where you are from in the world, there's a kind of a wood spar, and that's not very stiff either. And then additionally, inside the aluminium channel, right in the middle, there's just barely enough room for this very thin carbon spar, so I slid that into there also. So all in all, I have to say I'm a little proud of my build here, although this didn't just come from the top of my head. There are a few channels on YouTube that can really give some nice insight into these types of scratch build airplanes. I have 3 channels in mind in particular that have given me a lot of help and hints and tips, and they seem to be run by really good people. I'm gonna leave a link to those 3 channels below, although there are others that are really good resources as well, but definitely do try to check out those channels if you have the chance, if you are remotely interested in scratch building airplanes. It will be a good resource for you.
Yeah! Yeah! Great! Nice!
Oh,
Nervous?
can you hear my heart on camera?
Yes, I can hear.